I will record the meeting as well. All right, and let's get the notes, the agenda up here. Hang on. Did anyone, so did everyone get the notes from the last meeting from Joe, everyone on the planning board? And do you have any comments on that?
No.
No.
I didn't have any comments. I could put it up and share it and know if anyone wants to change anything. But
It's okay.
it's okay. So do I have a motion to approve the meetings from August 25th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Doug, aye.
Bob, I.
Peter,
Joe, I.
All right. So I will publish those meeting notes. Bear with me just a second. I gotta get the agenda up. Hang on. Okay. All right, another short little item that Alice would like to put on, and I agree with her, is that she would like to have us meet a specific day of the month as necessary. She said a specific day of the month, but we don't usually have to meet every month. And she has a meeting tonight. Actually, I also have another meeting tonight that I was supposed to be at. And I thought maybe just for scheduling purposes, we could schedule the planning board to meet the first Monday of the month as needed. So that doesn't mean we have to meet every first Monday, but if we're gonna, the first Monday's it. How does the planning board feel about that?
Does that conflict with any other major committee meeting?
It doesn't, and the biggest thing is that it doesn't conflict with any of Alice's, and she works for like 4 different towns.
Okay.
So that I picked the first Monday because she picked the first Monday, and it's whatever, but then we know. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Well, the only thing is, it's true, we don't have to meet unless we have some reason to meet.
Right,
But when you have a reason to meet, it may be 3 or 4 meetings in a row in a short period of time. But I don't have any problem with picking, like a Monday if it's just for routine business.
yeah,
As long as, the problem is she's so overscheduled that it's awkward, but that's not for discussion tonight.
right.
Let's pick one Monday and we'll deal with it as it evolves.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we can publish that and as needed and or as needed. But it does let us know that we can check in with each other and see if there's anything that Monday, and I think that's a good thing. So is that, do we need to vote on that, or is that just a sort of an academic thing that we don't need to vote on? Let's vote. Who wants to make a motion?
Doug, you're the chairman. Why don't you just decree it?
There you go.
Okay, I decree that we will meet every Monday as needed.
Not every Monday.
No, the first Monday of every month as necessary. So we may or may not meet. All right, that's fine. That was just something Alice wanted to put in there, and if it means that she can be with us and take notes, then all the better. Okay, so now we should focus on the special public hearing. We have Mark James here from True Cannabis. We have the specific reason for this meeting is to change two of the names on the site plan review. We have to change True Cannabis and one of the other companies. We're just switching them on the site plan. The other thing that we need to discuss in terms of the 11 Bel Air Road is the fence and the shipping containers and how they relate to the site plan review. So I would like to start out just summarizing this, and then I'll open it up to anyone else, especially the people from Bel Air Road that want to comment. It seems, so driving by Bel Air Road, there are two different problems. One of the problems, and this is setting aside the getting a building permit. Well, let me say that if there's no building permit and there's a building, that's an enforcement issue, and that is something that Jim Hawkins needs to deal with. That's not something that the planning board is allowed to do anything about. In fact, I gave Jim Hawkins a packet of tickets, of fines that he got from Heath, from Heath, and I don't have the power to issue them, but he does. So actually, if it comes down to having some kind of fine, that's a Jim Hawkins thing. If it comes down to definitions and what is allowed by the regulations, the zoning regulations, that is a planning board issue. So as I see it, and you guys let me go through this and you tell me if I'm wrong or if we need to adjust, but I think we have, first of all, a fence that people don't like. It's an aesthetic problem with the fence, that it's black fabric. And we also have the shipping containers, which are not a barn, which is on the site plan review. So, and they do not have a building permit. Apparently they do have an electrical permit, and they are hardwired. I wasn't sure how that could happen without a building permit, how you get an electrical permit, but apparently they do have an electrical permit. My thoughts on this were, well, there's two things we can do. We can force them to make some kind of a barn. We force them to make a barn, it will be much taller and you'll see more of it. The other thing is we could actually have the containers themselves covered as if they were a barn. I think, in my opinion, the best thing to do would be to have them spend the money on a taller fence that was made of wood and some kind of landscaping in front of it that would really address the aesthetic problems. They're allowed to have the fence the way it is, and they're allowed to put any kind of barn up they want. So it seems to me that if we could come to an agreement, and this is a negotiation, that we could have a taller wooden fence, maybe it's 2 feet taller, it might cover the structures that they're trying to, the containers that they're trying to use to work in. And so anyway, that's my idea, is maybe if we spent the money on the fence being a wooden fence and some kind of really good landscaping in front of it, and maybe even we have to move the fence back to be able to accommodate the landscaping. So I want to like throw that out there for discussion first with the planning board, and then I'll open it up to everyone. Anybody on the planning board have comments on that? Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I happen to think that I agree with you that we have a very ugly situation right now in terms of the way it appears. And that's to me, just driving by it is the biggest problem. What you suggest makes a lot of sense. And what's behind it is of less interest because you don't see it. So I think your proposal is a good one. That's my reaction.
Anybody else on the planning board? So Greg and Barbara, I know you guys you're right there. So why don't you take the floor and tell us what you think about my thoughts?
Unmuting. Hi.
So actually, we'll be recording this meeting as well. I had a couple of actually issues with a couple of statements that were made both by Bob and by you, Doug. First of all, per the building inspector, there is a height requirement for fences. Anything above that height requirement requires a special permit. So I don't care if you make it out of barbed wire, burlap, plastic, whatever the case may be, you already have a violation. Second, your setback from the road has to be moved and adhered to. That's violation number 2. As far as the containers are not the bigger issue, Bob, I would disagree with you unless, I'm trying not to be sarcastic, but unless you're visually impaired, you can't miss the 8 containers that are still on that property that you can see through a fence. So unless you're going to barricade the whole thing on at least 3 sides that are visible from the road for any of the residents on Sadaga Road, Underwood Hill Road, and definitely Danny Brooks, who's on Bella Road, I would disagree with that statement. I think that statement was a little short-sighted. It is a visual eyesore. Now, to put lipstick on the pig and make it boarded up or whatever you want to do, Doug, to camouflage it or hide it, you're condoning another violation. There was no permit pulled for those containers, nor are they permitted within the town. So if we're going to keep going down this road, you're opening up a Pandora's box within the town for anybody to vagrantly violate zoning and building laws and code enforcement, and basically just saying what we'll do is we'll let them camouflage you to do whatever the hell they want. So to answer your first question, and we can go further on this, we already have a problem that needs to be addressed before going much further.
So I actually have a clarification.
We can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry. I have a clarification question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in my review, and I have emailed back and forth a few times with Doug, so I tried to review those before asking the question. Just a very basic clarification. Which site plan was approved with the special permit granted on February 10th, 22? Now that February 10th public hearing was the follow-up of February 7th public hearing. Both recorded audio and video. There were site plans on both of them. The February 10th was the revised one, and to my understanding, that was the one granted special permit. Today, if I review any of the special permits, like I believe the public hearing today's special permit of switching the names, is showing the December 10th, 2021. The reason I bring this up, and we definitely need to start this public hearing on this premise. What site plan are we talking about? Because there are definite differences between December 10, 21. That shows 7,500 square foot barns, the word barn. And on February 10th, 22, it shows 6,000 square foot hoop houses. I would like to ask the planning board if you could define for me what's the difference between a barn and a hoop house legally for your bylaws. And the February 10th, 22 site plan, which I have here. It's all on the website. I pulled everything off our website. That one is the one, to recall for everyone, that's the one that shows the parking lots that we asked for on February 7th. And we adjourned and continued 3 days later, and they came up with a site plan for including parking lots. So I'm not sure how special permits for this evening or any other place on the website. I'm not sure why we're looking at December 10, which has no driveway, no parking lot, no the trailer location, and it says hoop house 6,000 square feet. So before we okay anything, or before you guys vote on anything on an amendment on your special permit, can you please have a discussion and analyze what site plan applies to today, and can we get rid of all other site plans in the past? That's my beginning of my question.
I'm going to add one more thing, and sorry, I'm going to pile on. But Counselor, and I'm addressing this to you, Mark, in our last meeting that was had, you actually acknowledged that your client or clients, two of them, the leasee of 11 Bella Road and the subleasee, I'm not sure which property we're talking about now with the shipping containers, it was brought to your attention about these violations and they were going to be corrected. I'm befuddled, and I'm actually looking now at the rest of the planning board as to why we're still having a conversation over 6 weeks later that this is not being addressed, because you're making a mockery of this building committee and the town at large, being somebody coming in from Michigan. At this point, this is almost kind of comical in a really twisted sense, because your client, who's in breach of a contractual agreement at this particular point, one misstep is a breach of contract that has not corrected a damn thing yet to put themselves in compliance. And I'd like to know from you, Mark, why this is not being done to date.
Just for clarification, because it wasn't spelled out on the
I'll go ahead, Mark. You can answer that question.
Hold on.
You're muted, Mark.
This is a question and answer session. I mean, this isn't even on the agenda for today's meeting.
It was supposed to be, it was promised it would
It's
be.
not.
This is a public hearing. We're the public.
It's a public hearing on our special permit, not on the containers.
Okay, so Doug, I'm gonna read to you the email that came to us September 6th from Jim Hawkins, the building inspector, who's Franklin County for you, Mark. We're in the town of Heath under Franklin County. He's the building
know.
inspector. This is the words, and this is what is in violation currently. On August 18th, 2022, I visited the marijuana cultivation site on Bella Road, Heath. This inspection revealed 8 unpermitted 8x40 cargo containers / storage buildings on site. These are considered structures per the zoning bylaws and building code and require permits to install. To date, and this was dated Tuesday, September 6th, we're a month later. To date, no application has been made to install the units. I also spoke with the electrical inspector, and he has not inspected or issued an electrical permit for these as well. Also, there is a fence installed on the property, which also requires a building permit. The planning board approved a site plan which shows barns but not shipping containers. There is one of the questions I have because my site plan shows hoop houses, so I'd like to know the difference. Therefore, it is my opinion that the containers are a violation of the approved site plan. Jim Hawkins, Building Commissioner. We are here for a public hearing to make an amendment to a special permit to change names. The original special permit is currently in code violation. So I would move that we cannot amend anything until codes are met on the bylaws of our town. Then we can talk about amendments and fences and bushes, aesthetics, the view that's gone, and anything else that's to come.
Anything beyond this point is premature, gentlemen and ladies.
As of today, my client has not received any notice of any claimed violations. There is no violations to deal with as of right now. Your
Well, then
allegations,
I would,
excuse me, your
I'm sorry.
allegations of violations do not make for violations. If there's violations, Mr. Hawkins will need to issue citations. He has not done so. In fact, Mr. Hawkins told my client that we did not need building permits for these containers.
Well, now, that's a problem because you do need a building permit for anything over 200 square feet in Heath. Now, I go back to the point that we do have to go through this special permit hearing for what was called for, and it is not the planning board's. We do not have the authority to give anybody a citation. We don't have that power, and we do not have the power to say we're not going to deal with you until that comes up. So I don't know where we go with this. I'd like to know from you guys if this really is an aesthetic problem, if we can discuss how to fix the aesthetic problem. And specifically, you guys, if you want to just try to, shut it down, that's one thing. But I'm trying to come to some middle ground here so that True Cannabis can know where to go. And to answer your first question, it is the special permit with the barns specifically that was granted, not hoop houses. Barns and parking lots were on the building permit, on the special site plan review.
can I speak to that?
Yeah,
Can the planning board pull out their February 10th, 2022 site plan, or could you please share screen so we can look at it together?
I agree with that.
hang on, I'm looking for it.
So if I could speak, that is the February 10th, 2022. That's exactly what I'm holding in my hands. The kind of light
Oh,
blue
no,
area says
no,
hoop
no.
house.
Yeah, it's not the right one.
That, Doug, that's the one from the February 10th, 22 audio video public hearing recording that you have on the website that you guys voted for. And it says in light blue and those little rectangles, hoop house, 6,000 square feet.
Hang on.
Christ, what have I done? That's Doug's.
Denmark is a little defensive,
Yes,
but he's getting all this shit about these code violations. He says, we haven't been issued any code violations.
that's amazing. I don't
Steve, you're
understand.
not in the, if you're gonna be in the meeting, you gotta say you're in the meeting, Stephen.
Sorry.
Um, what was the date on the other, what's the date on the other one?
There's one that's December 10, 2021. And that has 7,500 square foot barns, but it does not show parking area or the trailer or the driveways that we discussed between the 7th and the 10th.
All right, let me open this up to Mark. Can you shed some light on this? Which one is the one that you think is the right one?
I think Mrs. Rode is correct. The one of the reasons why the February 7th meeting or hearing was adjourned was to make some adjustments to the site plan. So I think the February 10th conceptual plan that you were just displaying is the correct one.
Okay.
And
Um,
if anyone here would like to review the audio video recording of February 10th does show that site plan. And it did come back with the parking area, the driveways and the trailer. And the one that you all voted on that evening and approved says hoop house, 6,000 square feet. So I would just like to establish here before you get any further, is the planning board in agreement that that is the site plan that you are speaking about? Further discussion on on hoop house versus barn should be had now because you're approving special permits as we go along. And then that also shows the frontage of where the fence is supposed to be. And it also shows the names of these companies that you are looking to switch. So can we just ascertain which site plan we're talking about?
okay, so planning board, was there a, that was the last meeting? That was the meeting that we voted?
Sorry, what was the question, Doug?
I'm asking you, which one, my understanding what it was the one that said Barnes. That's what and maybe I was wrong. So I want to know from the planning board, which was the last which was the last sketch that we approved?
Well, it certainly sounds to me like it's the February 10th.
Yeah, okay.
And if we said barn in our special permit, we probably misspoke. But it's not a crucial difference.
And one of the reasons that it's not a crucial difference, the square footage, of course, is very crucial. But one of the reasons why there is no definition of a hoop house in our bylaws, and there's no definition of a barn in our bylaws. So I guess moving forward, we have to all agree that we are discussing, let me share my screen again. Is it still being shared or no?
No.
There we go. And I think it's important, Mark, James, are you in agreement? Is this what we agreed on?
I do agree.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes that, that answers that question.
In fact, in furtherance of that point, I attached the wrong site plan to our July special permit application, so that might be where some of the confusion is coming from.
All right, so well, I think, I mean, I have to come back. I don't have a ticket to give to anybody. And Mark has not received a ticket from anybody. And True Cannabis has not received a ticket from anybody. So I'm not sure exactly what we need to do here. What's the,
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is sort of the common understanding of what a hoop house is? Because I don't really understand what it is.
I can tell you what a hoop house is.
Okay,
A hoop house is a structure that has metal ribs in an arch format with visqueen covering it.
so if you had submitted this drawing together with the application indicating you would be erecting hoop houses on these parcels of land, why did you end up putting shipping containers there?
I can't answer that question because I don't know the answer.
So
I could guess that the
can
shipping
you
containers are
decide
more.
whether we, as a planning board, have authority to enforce this just from the perspective of sort of, sort of complying with what the site plan was. It doesn't appear to me that you're in compliance with it now. I mean, I have no authority to issue any sort of edict of non-compliance, obviously, but I'm just saying, as sort of someone who is observing this, I don't see how you're in compliance with what you said you were going to do.
Kathy, go ahead.
Doesn't this have to go back to the building inspector at this point to have him rule on this, because we have no authority to do it?
Well, Kathy wants to talk. Let's hear what Kathy has to say. We'll come right back to that. Go ahead, Kathy. You got to unmute. Unmute, Kathy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
So to me, it's not all about an aesthetic problem. It's about violations. So we have all kinds of violations and weirdo things going on with these companies at the start. So to me, I don't know if it's the planning board, the town of Heath, the inspector, somebody needs to get this in order, because to start out, for businesses to start out with violations, that's really scary in this town. If they're going to
Okay.
start out with violations and do things that are not that they're not supposed to be doing at the start, what are they gonna do farther down the road? That's my opinion.
Okay, Kathy, I agree with you, but in fact, there have been no violations, according to Mark. There have been no violations recorded, so these people giving them the benefit of the doubt, they don't know what the violations are yet, so.
Well, the distance from the road for the containers is too short. The containers don't have permits. They're supposed to have permits. They don't have permits. There's a violation right there.
So
Who's supposed to be doing, somebody needs to be engaged in taking this on, and I don't know how you do that.
Jim Hawkins is supposed to be taking this on. The planning board is not allowed and is not authorized and has no ability to take this on. That's the law. Okay, so what I was trying to do here is try to find some kind of middle ground, find some kind of way that we could talk to each other. And honestly, you guys, we're having a three-way battle here, which we should not be having. We should be having a two-way battle. How do we get true cannabis in compliance? That's what we should be doing. But we're having a three-way battle. Everybody's fighting the planning board and fighting true cannabis, right? So let's try to figure out how to do it. I will call Hawkins and say, what's the scoop here? But apparently he has said one thing to Barbara and Greg and nothing to Mark James. And that's, so how do we have a discussion here? Go ahead, Greg.
Well, first of all, Doug, let's be completely truthful with each other. Mark in the last meeting was an acknowledgement that there was violations that needed, whether he got served violations is not, we can separate that. Mark is on record stating about the shipping containers, not being aware of the shipping containers, the offset on the road. That started the last conversation, the last meeting. So for him to say right now he doesn't know about this, now maybe he hasn't been served, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But the planning board was given notification by the building inspector, and I have a letter from the building inspector that I'd be more than willing to share all parties on this call. So we have a problem and it needs to be rectified. It's not a three-way, as you stated, Doug, it's not a three-way conversation. All we're asking as a resident in Heath and somebody who lives and is directly impacted on Sadaga Road to follow the law as written that has been voted and elected by the townspeople of the town of Heath. And if you can't do that, then we have a problem. So you should be, as a building committee, be working with the building inspector for full enforcement of this. Other than that, you're a de facto organization.
So let me interject here, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
First of all, I'm reading through the application for special permit,
Mhm.
and I've read through it several times, but I see nothing about a name change. And that's what this meeting's about. So I have a question about that in general. In regards to the shipping containers and the legalities and the permits and everything around that, I think that should be a separate meeting once Jim Hopkins has a chance to serve Mark and the partners the violations, and then we discuss those. You know, when it comes to the containers, I was pretty set back when they were getting set, because I was under the impression at the onset of this project that there would be formal barns of some sort set up for the processing of the marijuana, and that it would kind of fall into alignment with a farm environment. So I get it. I think they're ugly too, but I don't think this is the forum that we're going to conquer it until the owners and the lessees of the property have been served and they have due notice. And then we attack it at that front. So, you know, I just want to keep this on course because in this application for special permit, I do not see anything about a name change at all. So I'm still a little confused about the whole
Oh.
special permit thing.
Well, let me clarify that. The reason for this special permit is specifically to change one sentence on the map from true cannabis in the middle zone to true cannabis on the bottom zone. And it's just,
Gotcha.
it's a very academic,
It's a paper
change.
change on the map.
that's what this meeting is for.
Okay.
And actually, it's really the only thing that it's allowed to be for.
I agree.
And when we
I
come
think-
back and we come to all of this enforcement, we are not authorized to hold that enforcement over anyone's head. And especially since there's no actual violation that's been put on the books yet. I mean, even if it was on the books, that's still not our purview. I wish it was. I wish we could say, okay, do these things and we can change that. But what this special permit hearing is for is specifically, if you're looking at that map, to change true cannabis and VYBZ to switch those two. That's all that this meeting is really for. Go ahead, Greg.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
No,
no,
you
go
gotta let
ahead.
people, let them go first, please,
Yeah.
Doug.
You go ahead.
No,
Lynn.
I think you have Bill. I'm sorry.
Lynn and then Bill.
When you say that this meeting is not for this extra stuff, the last meeting I was on, we did hear the words being said that this meeting, we would revisit what we were discussing at the last meeting.
Well, technically, we have to stick to what's on this agenda for this meeting, but go ahead, Bill, you chime in.
Thanks, Doug. I agree with what's being said right now, that, you know, the purpose of this meeting. I would just say to Mark, you're coming into town and you're setting up businesses here, and I understand it's not you personally, but you know, it clearly, according to the site plan that was approved, there are clearly violations. And if you really, it seems sort of short-sighted to say, well, we haven't been issued a citation yet, because it's clear there are violations. So if that's the way these businesses want to come into town and just say, well, issue us violations and then we'll fix it, it's not a great way to start. So that's just my opinion.
Bill, I came to this meeting today prepared pursuant to the agenda. And okay, just so you understand where I'm coming from, I feel attacked.
I hear you, and that was not my intention. I'm just
No. I'm not saying you're attacking me, Bill. No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm just telling you where I'm coming from.
I got you, and that I've spoken my piece. I'm good.
Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks. So, you know, Bill, thanks, appreciate it. Peter, I appreciate what you had to say, and everybody else. And Mark, to a degree, you actually are being attacked, but, and I apologize because there's issues not being addressed. Danny, I respect your opinion. I would disagree. So where the point I want to come up with is to the board, sticking with what's on the agenda, which is what Mark's issue is, rightfully so. It would be the equivalent of us trying to build a house right now. You haven't poured a footing or foundation. You got walls going up, roofs are going in, and then you're going to abandon the site, leave it to the other leasee on the site, and just switch names around. That's not copacetic. So it is premature to be moving around any lots, who now is taking ownership of what lot, until the lot that is in play right now, that is in question, gets rectified. I find it very hard for anybody to move forward to start swapping around names of lots when the lot that is right now, what is it, True Cannabis is on, wants to now dump it to somebody else, and we have to fight now with the other leasee of that lot to rectify.
No, that's
No,
not what's happening at
actually,
all.
wait a minute, that's not true. That's not true.
How is it
True.
not?
Well, because True Cannabis is moving to the lot that has the containers on it.
Because you said last meeting, True Cannabis put the containers there. Correct? Mark James said last meeting that True Cannabis is the one that erected the fence, put the containers and put electricity to them.
That's
Is
right.
that
True
correct?
True Cannabis leases 92 Sedona Road.
So to me, it's the first lot by the woods, and the place that we're talking about where the fence, where the containers, and where they are hooked up electrically, that has been done by True Cannabis. Is that correct? Okay, so let's stay on issue with tonight's special permit request to switch names on the site plan. The site plan that was redrawn on February 10th, given to your purview to issue a special permit, voted on that day, coming back for a requested amendment. I'm looking at our bylaws, page 4, section 1.6. It's under purpose and administration. I would like to read a few sentences. Special permit granting authority. The special permit granting authority shall be the planning board. Special permits shall be granted only for proposals in compliance with the provisions of this bylaw and of MGL Chapter 40A upon written determination by the planning board, and the proposal will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on the town. There's a few more sentences not necessary. So I would like to point out now at the public hearing, on behalf of being a member of the public, I've lived here for 24 years, that True Cannabis erecting things on the wrong spot on the site plan that was approved, True Cannabis has already made an error in installing things on the wrong site in the site plan. Again, what Kathy stated and Bill stated, that we're not at a good point in a starting position of having any trust whatsoever that anything will be adhered to, including our planning board or elected officials, kind of putting it on the building inspector, and the building inspector didn't correspond. I have a timeline I have the power to share with you. I typed it in a condensed form of correspondence that notified all of our departments, including the planning board, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 email chains back and forth between 8/12, August 12th, 22, and 9/13/22. Just for the record out loud, for those of you who are not on video, we're on October 6th. So the fact that True Cannabis installed things on the wrong location on the site plan, I think is a factor for the planning board to take into account as you vote to approve another special permit for this company or not. Alice stated last meeting that you can put contingencies. You can say, we'll talk about changing your name location to the first spot by the woods, whatever address you have for it, if you get back into compliance according to the building inspector and the town of Heath bylaws that were voted on by our residents. Just a suggestion.
Planning board? Actually, so I think that we could allow this change contingent on the True Cannabis getting completely in compliance with the bylaws, with the site plan. So go ahead, Bob.
That seems reasonable to me.
Greg and Barbara, does that seem reasonable to you?
Had to unmute, sorry.
Doug, I would like to see a building committee with a backbone. It's not up to us. It's up to what's the law. You have a law, you have regulations.
Greg, you guys just suggested this, and I'm trying to
Yeah,
help you.
So, yeah, but giving them anything contingent, why don't you have Mark and his clients show you that they've done it? Then you can have another meeting and say, okay, great, now you're in compliance, let's move forward. To even talk about this until it's done is a moot point, Doug.
No,
What part
it's
don't you get?
it's not. When we finalize this with contingency, we don't make our decision until they're in compliance.
Fine.
So
Make it
don't tell me I
contingent
don't have a
upon that, Doug.
background. Stop. Don't tell me I don't have a background.
Yeah.
If we do a contingent, that's the law. I have to do this thing within the law, and I don't have any violations in my hand. I don't. I know you think we do. I know you can point things out, but I don't have any violations in my hand because none were written.
Okay. I have a follow-up question that was just to clarify for anyone else here why we're bringing this up at tonight's meeting. We emailed, actually, all of you on the planning board received this, should have received this email. Doug, the Heath Town coordinator, and Jim Hawkins, September 13th. Dear Heath Planning Board, we are requesting on your next meeting agenda an agenda item to include discussion of current code violations reported for 11 Beller and corrective actions to be taken. Response received back by the chair. Hi, Barbara. That will be on the agenda. Take care. Tuesday, September 13th, 5:36 p.m.
And
That's why
but-
we're talking about it tonight. I don't
know.
know why it's not typed on your agenda.
But because we're not allowed to do it, we are not authorized to do that.
It says
I-
discussion.
I
It doesn't say
told you,
issue violation.
and we are discussing it, but we can't in this meeting make a decision about violations that don't exist yet.
Okay, but you
I
can
would like to
deny
talk to you
special
about it.
permit
I'm trying.
application.
Huh?
You can deny special permit application. You don't have to approve it.
Right, and if they were compliant, I would be inclined to approve it. And if we say that we will approve it contingent on them being in compliance, then that solves both of our problems, yours and mine, because you have a problem with them being in compliance, and they can't get the permit until they're in compliance. Right?
Doug, one final question. I really want to mute and let you guys have a meeting. Did you say you requested you gave a packet of fines to Jim Hawkins earlier in this meeting? Because I wrote down for my notes to request the packet of fines that Doug issued to Jim Hawkins to apply. That's all
I gave
public.
him blank forms. I gave him blank forms because I got them from Hilma, because Heath creates them. I am not allowed to give them to anyone. I'm only allowed to give them to Jim Hawkins, who then can give them out. And he
But-
has them.
But that would acknowledge that you knew that there were some violations if you gave
No.
him blank forms.
This was 2 years ago,
Oh,
2 years
okay.
ago. Okay?
All right, thank
So
you
it
for the
doesn't do that.
clarification.
I have a question for you, Doug.
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
So they meet compliance. And at the opening of the meeting, we discussed the containers. So am I to assume that if they meet compliance, the containers are staying?
No, they have to have a hoop house to be compliant,
Okay, so we're gonna have
because that's what's on the site plan review, unless they want to change the site plan review.
have a metal framed hoop house, because I was not aware of the other meetings. Alls I attended was the first meeting.
Yeah, well,
I didn't
where I
know about
started,
the others.
where I started this was that I think a hoop house will be twice as tall and just as ugly as a container.
I
And
agree.
so I thought that we could maybe do something that would fix the aesthetics of the problem. That clearly is not what all of the neighbors want. So we can say they have to put up a hoop house, and by the way, then they don't have to do anything to the fence, because the fence is in compliance. They may have to move the fence. I agree. That's not what I'm here. We're not allowed to do that. Don't keep making me do something that I'm legally not allowed to do. Right? Jim Hawkins, I can talk to Jim Hawkins. I can say, hey, use the tickets, man. So that then it's between them, and if they become compliant, then they have their switch that they want.
Yeah, I totally get it, Doug. I'm just catching up and I'm trying to wrap my head around
Yeah.
what happened to the original plan as such that there would be aesthetically fitting barns such as the barn that Esther has currently, or Esther had in place. Whatever happened to that plan, Mark? Because hoop houses to me is something that over course of 3 or 4 winters is going to get the hell beat out of it. The containers are an eyesore. But what happened to the original plans of building a facility that they could process the marijuana in? That's what I
Danny,
don't understand.
I don't recall exactly, this was 8 months ago, but there was discussions at the February 7th planning board public hearing, that resulted in us changing the site plan on February 10th. I apologize. I don't remember exactly why it was changed.
Okay, I did not know about the February 10th meeting at all. So otherwise I would have attended. Like I said, I'm just catching up, and it's pretty ugly right now, so. I agree with Barbara and Greg. It's gotta be fixed.
So where are we? Do we want to pass this contingent on them becoming in compliance, or do we want to let it go, or where are we?
So
We'd have to,
I'm sorry, Doug, just a question.
yeah,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, I mean, it's fine. We can put in a contingency that says that the special permit is granted once they're in compliance. But I'm confused about what in compliance means. To be in compliance with the site plan might be different than being in compliance with the building code.
Well,
And
it's simple. We just say that they're in compliance with the site plan and the building code.
yeah, I
specifically.
understand. Do we just pass this off to Jim Hawkins and say, Jim, give us the answer? Are they in compliance?
Well, he is the expert on the building code
Right.
and the enforcement agent.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just trying to understand what the process is going to be. And maybe we don't know yet.
Yeah. See, so on the other side of the coin, I think just saying, no, you can't make this switch, which is what this meeting was published for. And legally, it's the only thing we're allowed to figure out. So do we just say, no, you simply can't? How do I write that up?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm only trying to understand what it means to say that it's granted with contingencies. And the contingencies are that it's in compliance. So if we say it's in compliance with the site plan says a hoop house. So containers have to go away, hoop houses have to be erected. Is that
Yeah.
what we're saying?
Maybe they have to put a hoop house over the containers,
Right.
but there has to be a hoop house that's how many square feet? So, you know, we have to say why we rejected it, just like we have to say why we accepted it. just like we have to say what the contingents are. So if we're rejecting it, why are we rejecting it? There is no violation for me to point to. I can't write down that there's a violation because it doesn't exist yet.
Well, what you can say is because the sites are not in compliance with the site plan that was approved. So it's not saying that there is an existing violation. It's saying they're not yet in compliance, and once they are in compliance, then the special permit will be granted.
So members of the planning board, are you inclined to deny the special permit, or are you inclined to accept it if they come into compliance? Go ahead, Bob.
I think that what we can do is approve the change subject to them being in compliance with the Heath building codes. It does not get into who issued what or didn't issue. That's very clearly in our purview, and it deals with this actually otherwise mechanical issue. That's what my recommendation would be. That we can do. We approve it once they are in compliance with the Heath building codes. Period.
And Joe, what are your thoughts?
I think that's reasonable, but do we have to give them a timeline for how long they have to get into compliance?
Sure.
Well, they're just not going to get the approval as a special permit until they're in compliance.
Right. I mean, I think that they're going to have, once that statement is made, they have, the onus is on them. They could not do anything. I know that they need to get working. They need to get working by springtime, I'm sure, because they've missed a season already, so.
And are the Heath building codes distinct from the Franklin County building codes?
No, building code, there are some things like setbacks and number of acres and things like that. But it would be the Heath building codes is how you would write it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kathy.
About the site plan, would you include the building plans and the site plan for them to be in compliance with those two things?
Yes, I would include the site plan that
And
we
could
have right
you-
now. It's up on it's up on the page.
And could you say what you said about, but when they are in compliance with those two things, then the change can be made. But can you hold, I don't know the language for how you would do that, but can you hold off the actual giving of that until they've done all that compliance so that you can officially, the committee as a group can officially say that, yes, as of this date, that change is okay? Rather
Yeah,
than say,
because that's the whole nature of having contingencies. Yes, it's allowable when they do this. And so when Jim Hawkins says they've done this, then they would have their permit. So.
And Doug?
Yeah.
Would we have to have yet another meeting of the planning board to assert, to acknowledge, to decree that they are in compliance and hence the special permit is granted, or would it happen automatically?
It would happen automatically because Jim Hawkins would have signed off on their building permit. We could certainly
the site plan, how about the site plan?
we're including the site plan and the building code.
But would Jim Hawkins have a say on the site plan?
Yes, Jim Hawkins sent me, Jim Hawkins
Okay.
specifically asked me about the site plan. In fact, Jim Hawkins is the one that asked me about the barns. So that may have been where the confusion came about that, because he sent me the site plan and asked me specifically, are these containers considered barns? That was the first communication I had about this. So that's why I was focusing on that map, and Jim sent it to me. So we also would make a contingent on this site plan that is being shown right now. Because you still see it, right? Still up?
Yep.
All right. Mark, would you like to chime in here at all?
I'm not sure what there is to say, Doug.
Yeah. All right. Just wanted you to have a chance.
Yeah, actually, I would like to say something, and this isn't directed to you, Doug, or the planning board. Fortunately, in the United States, we have a constitution. And the Constitution says, among other things that I'm sure you're well aware of, that you're innocent until proven guilty. Now, proven guilty requires that there be a charge, an actual accusation, not a citizen saying that there's a violation, but an entity that's charged with enforcing the law saying there's a violation. That's all I have to say.
That was actually my point before, is everybody has to understand that it's not that we're being wishy-washy, it's that we're not allowed to make decisions just based on what we feel like. We are not the enforcement agency. If there was nothing filed, we can't do anything about that. And so since we believe you, Greg and Barbara and everyone else who lives on Sadaga Road, we believe that you think there are issues, we are going to put that in as a contingent. And I'm actually comfortable with that. So I would entertain a motion that we approve True Cannabis switching to, is there a lot number there? I can't see it.
There's actually a street address,
Two
Doug,
All right.
Brown Road.
92 Sadoga Road.
What's that, 19?
92.
92.
92, oh, right, I got it, I'm sorry. All right, Peter, what were you gonna say?
No, I'm just looking at the map more closely.
Okay, so let me state this, and then the planning board can come back and tell me if I have it right. So I would entertain a motion that we approve the change to the site plan review for 11 Bella Road. We would change True Cannabis Inc. to 92 Sadaga Road, and VYBZ to 2 Bella Road, contingent on the site plan review coming into compliance and all building codes for Heath and Franklin County coming into compliance.
Second,
So we have to have a first, but I'm entertaining a motion.
Okay, I would make that motion, Doug.
Okay,
second,
all in favor?
aye, Bob,
Doug, aye.
Peter, I.
So I,
All right, so that's unanimous. All right.
can I just make kind of a general editorial comment,
Yes, you can.
which is not related to anything but the beginning of this discussion?
Mhm.
Just driving by the site, it is aesthetically ugly. And when we clear up all of these legal site issues, it's still going to be ugly. And I would just mention to the folks that live there that through a special permit, which we could issue, we could change the height of the fence. We could change the character of the fence. We could request plantings, which is what the discussion was that we started this meeting with. It's just an editorial comment that these changes, once we sort out the legal issues, are possible.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Thank you, Bob, for stating that. I have had a question for a few weeks now. I'm not sure I've had an actual answer that makes sense to me, or maybe I misunderstood it. So this question would be to the whole planning board. When the parties applied for the special permit that was granted on February 10th, did they include the impact statement, which is our zoning bylaw section 6.1.6? I do have it in front of me. Can anyone tell me if there was an impact statement included with the application? And I have done research. I can't find one. I requested a copy, and the clerk of the planning board came after the fact, not sure, could not find one on file. And Doug kind of didn't answer it specifically. So can anyone else on the planning board tell me if an impact statement was included with the special permit application, the original one?
I don't think so.
If it wasn't, unless somebody else wants to speak, if it wasn't done, an impact statement, if the planning board granted a waiver of impact statement, which is zoning bylaw 6.1.5, what was the reasoning and where is that copy of a waiver granted on file for public record? And for anyone who's lost, I have this sitting in front of me. I could read these sentences, what it says that's supposed to be included with any special permit application. It's part of the process. That would have addressed everything Bob just said. If it wasn't done, I am formally requesting to the entire planning board that when you have a meeting of the planning board, that we can have an agenda item. I would like to know when there's a meeting that we can discuss planning board process in applying our bylaws and special permit application process. We're missing elements that have been voted on.
We actually have multiple concerns. You guys are just touching on the first one. So we're actually requesting a meeting with, this is not for tonight. We're requesting a meeting with the building committee to address these other concerns that need to be addressed sooner rather than later.
And is there a way to formally request a meeting agenda item other than the email I sent each one of you?
Yeah.
Or
No,
on record right now?
No, you can, we can have that discussion. That's fine. Let me, hang on. We can meet, well, we just discussed as needed the first Monday of every month. Let me see.
We're formally requesting to be put on that agenda for that meeting.
All right, can you write that up and send it to me? And I will do that.
Should I forward you the last email I sent you? It was on 9/13. You have it in writing.
No, okay. All right, well, but you just said more than you said in that email. You said you wanted to put something on agenda item. You want you write up your agenda item for me and just send it to me. And I will put it on our next meeting.
Good, thank you.
Will do.
Can I get an invite to that meeting too, please, Doug?
Of course.
Thank you.
You know what? I don't have, do you have an email for me?
We can stay on after and I'll give it to you.
That'd be great. Okay. All right, there's nothing else on our agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn both the special public hearing and the planning board meeting at 8:24.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? Doug, aye.
Peter, I.
Joe, I.
All right, so the meeting's adjourned. I will stay on and get an email from you, Danny.
Okay, good.
All right. Okay, you go ahead and shoot. Tell me what your email is.
Want to use yours or mine?
I would use mine.
Go ahead. We'll have it sent to Heather, Doug.
You could send it to me at doug@douglasmason.com.
Hold on.
Hold on, Doug.
That's pretty simple.
So it's Douglas,
It's just Doug, D-O-U-G,
yeah,
at Douglas, DOUGLASMASON.com. You got it?
I believe I do. So it's
right.
Doug at douglasmason.com.
Yeah, and then let me give you my phone number too, in case I will respond. So you know I got it, but I'll give you my phone number is 339-4756.
Okay, Doug. Yeah, she's sending you an email now.
Okay. I'll check it right now.
Yeah, it's from mom to all
Okay.
.hb@gmail.com, just in case it gets stuck in your junk mail.
I'm gonna look at it right now. Let me just see if I get it. Oh, there we go. Is it, oh, it's not Heather, oh, Mom to, I got you. It comes up as Heather B.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, I have it. You guys have a great night.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a
Bye-bye.
good night.